Intro to start here. All right, guys, we are now live here about an hour and a half later than we usually are, but that's on me. I fell a doozy. I fell asleep watching my lineups just fall from the top 20 to the bottom 50 in MLB. So we're not going to spend too much time on that. We're going to get straight to the golf here. We have the BMW Championship this week. We had a week off, obviously, last week, so it's a good breather. Came almost at the perfect time with week one being last week. We got time to focus back on football a little bit, but this time we are solely looking at the BMW Championship going on here in Lake Forest, Illinois. The BMW Championship here, as we spoke about just before stream, has only been this is the third time they'll be playing at Conway Farms, which is the course in Lake Forest, Illinois. They played in 2013, 2015, and this year. A little bit of an outlier, and I think it was 2015. The scoring was through the roof. I think the winning score was 22 under. We're probably not going to see that again. The course got drenched with rain, and it just played really soft and easy for these guys. But just to give a little course information here before we get into it, it's a par 71, about 7,200 yards, 4 par 3s, 11 par 4s, and 3 par 5s. And just a little paragraph I got here, courtesy of Rob Bolton from PGA Tour here. He said 42 golfers in this week's field of 70 completed 72 holes at Conway Farms in at least one of the previous two editions, the 2 years I mentioned. Of that subset, 23 are prepping for their third appearance. Not surprisingly, only 2 in my power rankings. We don't need those because we're going to get our own. But he said John Rahm and Cantlay are first-timers. That's because they're both making their debuts in the FedEx Cup playoffs. And that's the end of his quote there. I will say this, though, that Patrick Cantlay seems to be chalk, so it's not like usually guys that are golfing tournaments for their first time are generally a little underappreciated. But I'm here again with ACP. Good segue into this. So, ACP, my brother, how you doing, my man? Before we get started, tell everyone how you're doing and what you've been up to and how the week was for you this past week.
Excuse me. Sorry, I'm sick, guys. Let me get a cough drop. The week was it was decent, man. Like a lot of you guys know, I'm learning NFL, so the first weekend, that was a whole different thing for me. Was experiencing the Thursday through Monday sweat, and then like just Sunday games and stuff like that. So I tried to watch as much football that I can. So definitely a whole different element for me. But so yeah, I'm excited for golf, guys. MLB has been like hit or miss for me this recently. And like today, I stacked the right team and not the right players, like the Cubs. So I'm just ready for PGA, man, and it's familiar area for me. And I know that I know my boy Dex here is excited for it as well. This event, for everybody, we're probably gonna say this multiple times. This event is a no-cut event. So the biggest thing here, guys, is going to be scoring. I know we harped on it last 2 weeks ago, and it's even bigger here. So when you think about rostering your players, make sure you're rostering players who can score a decent amount of DraftKings points. I know some of you guys might look at a player and be like, no, this guy, he's not good. He's not going to place top 10. But guys, like, let's say example, like a Luke List, right? Who, especially there's a decent amount of par 5s here. So he can go out there and get you 2 eagles, maybe 3 eagles. And that's huge in DraftKings scoring. So once again, once you're building your lineups, think of DraftKings scoring in mind and not so much just placing. But yeah, it should be a good event, guys. Like I said, no cuts this week. So always keep that in mind when you're building your lineups this week.
Yes, sir. You said it very well there. All right. So I'm just dropping the link back in the group here, just for anyone, since it is hard to follow here. So I can get to it. Yeah, and since you mentioned Luke List, not just him, but you mentioned him because he's a bomber. He's going to get those eagles, and the par 5s are fairly long, so it's going to be tough. But the guys that are going to hit those, that have the opportunity of the eagles, are guys like Luke List, Tony Finau, Dustin Johnson, Keegan Bradley, guys that just pound the ball. You don't have to be as accurate as other courses, so we will get into that. And driving distance is one of my key stats. I'm trying to get this link posted, but I'm literally struggling. All right, there we go. All right. So we can just start at the top as as the viewers that have been watching pretty much, how many weeks have we done this? I don't know, about 8 to 10 weeks, I think. We just start up right up there at the top. I talk a little bit about my key stats first and how the guys up top fare in my key stats. And we'll spend some time to talk about the weather as well, because Sunday it doesn't look too good. Obviously, we can't project. For the 4-day tournament, we can't project weather on the last day. That doesn't really affect our lineup building. But we will also look at some ownership projections and stuff like that, as you guys know. We also have Bovada up here for some Vegas odds, correlations to price, and we'll point out any, or we'll look at any discrepancies maybe. So let's get right into it, my man. We'll start up here at the top. As usual, we have Jordan Spieth and DJ as the only two really in a class of their own in terms of price. We can just have we can just do 10K and above. I was going to say we could separate them, but there's only 3. It's only Fowler, Rahm, and JT separate. So we can bring them all into one. And before we get into that, I just wanted to say I'm only looking at 5 stats, guys, and ACP pretty much hit it on the head. I'm looking at scoring pretty much. Birdies are better at 25%, which is tied with my strongest attribution, if that's a word, or attributor, I should say, with strokes gained par 4, just because there's 11 par 4s. Then I'm looking at driving distance, which is it's kind of my way of looking at par 5 scoring without directly looking at par 5 scoring. Strokes gained tee to green, which to me is the most important, one of the most important stats in terms of finishing position, but it is such a, I just kind of woke up, so I'm still a little brain fried here, but it's just a arbitrary stat. It's just something that you have to put in there. It just shows, it's almost like adjusted around score. It just kind of shows who's hitting the ball well. Then I have strokes gained around the green, so just a little scrambling. And that's it. So for the guys golfing, as ACP mentioned, all 4 rounds, there is no cut. You're going to want birdies. Even if they bogey a few times, if they can trump that with more birdies, we're going to be looking good. So that's why I counted that as 25%. So right here at the top, we have DJ and Spieth. Then we have, in terms of price, Fowler, Rahm, and JT. So my first read, real quick, I was looking at JT actually, but think I'm coming off him. He's number 1 of my stats. Here, actually, let me share my screen real quick. But he's number 1 of my stats, followed by DJs. And I will let you guys know that this is where the studs kind of show up, and that it shows it by the stats. I mean, the top 9 guys in my stats are Paul Casey and above. So 9,200, literally the top 9 are all 9.2K or higher. So obviously you can't fit all those guys in your lineups. You're going to have to take some chances. With only 70 guys in the field, the cut is going there. I mean, there is no cut. So you're not really losing much by playing a guy that's at 5% owned. The reason guys at 15 to 20% owned, like Daniel Berger or Finau or Gary Woodland, is because they have the possibility, they probably won't, but they have the possibility of winning or doing very well. I fell on that train last week or 2 weeks ago. If I mentioned last week, I obviously mean 2 weeks ago, guys. But I fell on that train a couple weeks ago by playing Daniel Berger at 7,500 because he could win the event supposedly, and this guy barely scratches the cut, barely saved my lineup. So I probably won't be going that way again. But we'll get into that pretty soon here. I still need to share my screen, but I'll let you start at the 10K range, man, while I do that real quick.
All right. Yeah, so we'll start with these 11 through 10K guys. Excuse me, guys. I'm so sorry. Any of these guys, like we say at the top, any of them are playable. It's more just about preference as far as who do you prefer and how do you want to build your lineup. This week, especially with the lowest guy being 6'9", it's going to be a lot tougher to roster a lot of these top guys. So if you literally roster 1 or 2 of these top guys, let's say I roster Spieth and I roster JT, that leaves me with 6'9", 7'5" from an average remaining player. So it's going to be a lot harder to kind of just stack the top guys and then play some of the lower guys. So you really got to make your stand on, okay, this is the one stud I like in this 10, 11K range. and then play from there, or if you're just gonna fade the whole 10K range guys and build you a solid 9 through 7K range lineup. But as far as these top guys, favorite guys, I can't say enough about JT. He's hot. He's a birdie maker. No cut to worry about. So JT is probably my favorite play from this top range. He's long too. Ricky Fowler is, as far as point scoring, you can't ever really go wrong with Ricky Fowler. I mean, if you just look at his last couple of events, 96, 88, 78, 62, 80, 87. So, it's really the price of, at 10-7, is that a good enough price for what Ricky Fowler is going to give you? Because, I haven't seen it from him yet where, he's actually looking like he can win an event. So that's the debate. So if you like Ricky Fowler this week, play him. He's always a decent DraftKings play. But for me, it's like at that price, I need him to be, at least top 5, at least in contention to win. So I'd probably be fading Ricky Fowler this week. But I do like JT this week. Spieth, can't go wrong with it. His game log says it, first, 13, 28, second. It's really just with these top guys. Like I said, it's a matter of how do you want to build your lineups this week. So if you just play Spieth from this top, you get $7,640 left for average remaining player. So that's not too bad. But you really got to make a stand on which stud you like if you're going to roster one of these top guys. I think my favorite plays are, no surprise, is JT and Spieth in this range. What about you, Dexter?
Yeah, man. Real quick, as we talked about that, it's really hard to fit, as you said, those two studs in. You're literally going to the min price because, as we see, min price is $6,900 this week. It's not going to be at $6,400 or $6,700 where it has been the last couple of weeks. So if you're going to the dumpster there, you're looking at $6,900. Guys like Luke List, who we talked about, Xander Schauffele, guys that kind of could be priced at the 7.3, 7.4 range, but will garner ownership because there's two reads you can make, as you mentioned. You're either going to go studs and duds, try to fit as many top guys in as you can, and then have to go all the way down to the bottom, or you're going to make a balanced lineup. And I've been going back and forth, and I think the studs and duds is kind of the way to go. After looking at past results, it's generally the studs that win. Jason Day, as we talked about off stream, ACP brought up that Jason Day is absolutely smashed. Even with the withdrawal, he's like top 3 in DK points at Conway Farms because his scoring is unbelievable. He's number 1 in strokes gained, tee to green. Just excellent birdie maker. Went on a putting spree, which is hard to predict as putting is very volatile. But that being said, I do like Spieth as well. When it comes down to it, if the weather does get poor, he is the best putter out of all these guys up here. His driving distance isn't there, as we saw with DJ, absolutely obliterating him on 18 in the playoff. Was it 3 weeks ago now? So I do like Spieth, but I'm having trouble fitting him in a lineup that I think can all do well, like get all 5 all 6 in like the top 20 or top 25. So I was thinking about dropping down to JT because the expected value, or like the EV I see, is equal. You can expect a win from JT or Spieth. So I also think JT might be a little less owned, even though he's $1,500 cheaper. Spieth is number 1 in odds, I think, this week. That's 6-1 with DJ at 7-1. Then with JT at 10, Fowler at 12-1. So we do see JT with a little bit of odds mismatch there, only being third favorite to win, but being 5th or 6th in DK price. So I will be playing JT and Spieth. I won't be able to fit them in the same lineup, obviously, but I do plan on running 2 or 3 lineups for this event. And I will be fading Fowler as well, just not long enough. He can make some birdies. That's the one thing I'm worried about, but I don't see many eagle opportunities. Like JT, you can smash the ball. He's 7th in driving distance for me the last 50 rounds. Obviously, DJ is number 1, so I will be looking at DJ as well. But and also, real quick, I just peeped at the tee times, and Spieth, DJ, and JT are teeing off together. So
wow.
Yeah, it's a crazy tee group. Obviously, as a lot of us know, JT and Spieth are like best friends, and whenever they kind of tee together, they kind of bring each other up. And if one of them's not doing too well, they kind of they bring each other back into the thick of things. So I'm kind of right there on the read with you, Spieth or JT. I'm not. I think Rob might be a leverage play because Rahm isn't. Let me just look him up on Fantasy National here. So Rahm's calculated at about 14% ownership, while guys like Spieth, DJ, and Fowler's actually projected for more than DJ. If that's the case, I'm going to play DJ all day.
Fowler's always up there in ownership. He has his
right. Right. I mean, seeing him at that price though is hard for me to own him. But Rahm is the lowest projected out of everyone. Jason Day and higher by 4%. JT is next. So, if I do get to the chalkier plays down low, I will probably try to put John Rahm in there. He has been doing very well recently. But as you mentioned, just to speed up just a little bit, JT and Spieth for me, with a sprinkle of DJ if I can make that third lineup. I think Spieth Spieth just kills my stats last 24 rounds. First in strokes gained par 4, first in strokes gained tee to green, first in birdies, second in around the green, and 39th in driving distance. So he's still about average in driving distance, which isn't terrible in this event because you can make up for it everywhere else. And JT third in par 4 scoring, 7th in tee to green, 13th in birdies. Not as good as you like to see, but JT is also volatile. He is very hot right now, as we know, but it's boom or bust with him at times. We've seen him make shoot a 9 on a par 4 before, and pretty much shoot him out of the tournament on a Thursday or Friday. So that is a little risky, especially at that price. But he's golfing for Player of the Year. He's also golfing for the $10 million first prize as PGA champion or FedEx Cup champion. And then he smashes the ball, 4th in driving distance. So it's DJ real quick. I just want to check. DJ, Koepka, Finau before JT. So not a bad list there. And we can get right into that lower range unless you have anything else or not lower range, but the 9K range if you have anything else to mention.
No, I was just messing around with a line with JT. So JT, he's at a decent price compared to some of these top studs, and we all see how hot he's been. And I agree with Dex about the whole he's very volatile. Like even me seeing him make a first T6 on first, I'm still like hesitant to play him because I know like if you scroll down, he had 3 straight missed cuts. So I know how volatile he can be. But if I was messing with a line, I can fit like a JT, Hideki, like a Kyle Stanley, Lucas, Leishman in a line and still have like 7, 8 left over. And that's just messing with a quick little line. So JT definitely is in play this week, but we can move down to the next range if you're ready.
Yeah, no worries. I just fiddled with that as well. JT, you can fit some top level guys in there as well with him, while with Spieth and DJ, as you mentioned, you really can't as well. So, down to that 9K range, I'm really not liking it too much. If I think this is going to be rough for me, but I think this week I will be fading Paul Casey. It's tough for me though. I'm not going to spend too much time deliberating it, but it's tough for me. I don't know if his ownership is going to be really high or kind of medium this week, because obviously he usually is 20 to 30% owned. Sometimes it even goes to 33 I've seen, but I think a lot of people are going to be trying to fit those studs in, JT and higher, even Jason Day and higher more than likely. So that 9K, that like 8 point, like Patrick or Sergio and up, I'd say up to Rory, might not a dead zone, but I think the ownership is going to be almost cut in half, or like of a third or 2/3, I should say, not a third, 2/3 of like the guys up top. So if Casey does drop, or if I make a read that he drops to like 20%, I might play him just because he's a guaranteed top 10 and I just put him in and worry about everywhere else. But he's predicted 20%, so 22.3%. I don't know. Jason Day is my play in the 9K range, but he's also going to be a little bit chalky, I think. I don't know, man. This is kind of just a dead zone for me. I'm not really looking at anyone until we get down to that 8K range. But if you can sway me one way or another, what's your take? And also, what's your take on Paul Casey there as well, man?
Yeah, so it's killing me too because the way he's priced, and the way everybody's priced really is pretty much if you play Paul Casey, like he has to be one of your top priced guys. Like if you play Paul Casey, you're left with 8,160 per player, and let's say you want to fit him with Jason Day. Now you're left with 7,800. So you can still build a nice, decent lineup, but those top studs too at the same time pretty much are out of the question. If you play Paul Casey in like a JT, you're left with 7,600, which I mean you can still build a decent line with that, but it's really just how strong do you want those mid-tier players to be.
Real quick on Paul Casey. Also, I don't have the up-to-date information, but his wife is expecting their second child very soon. I think she's scheduled to have a C-section. I don't know the time or the date, but he is on baby watch. I don't know if the second child has came yet, but I'm gonna Google that while you talk about it real quick, and then I'll update you at the end there. So go ahead, man. Not to interrupt you there. Just
yeah, I'll just go over these top 9K plays. But yeah, I like Paul Casey this week. His course history is good here as well. I just don't like his pricing this week, and he deserves it with how consistent he's been. T4 at 5, 13.5. So he definitely, if you want to play him, I don't blame you, and I may play him. I'm still on the fence about it. It's just how do you want to roster your lineups is the biggest thing. If you play JT, do you want to play one of the top? Paul Casey, do you want to play one of the top studs, or do you want to kind of build a more mid-tier lineup? So Paul Casey's in play, and he has good course history here, so I see no reason against it. Honestly, Jason Day is another one that we talked about. His course history here is great as well, and he's been trending upward. 60. He ended that last tournament with a 66 on round 4. So, and this is definitely the time to get him before everybody's back on him. So Jason Day is a solid play at 9.6. Honestly, I think my favorite plays in this range though are Hideki, just because of how much he can score. Like even that last tournament where he didn't perform too well in the beginning, he had an eagle, and that last round 4, he had a 66 in that last round 4. So Hideki is always one of those guys. I'm interested to see who he's paired with this week too, because there's that whole thing about him being paired with studs he doesn't do as well. But after a week of rest, I like to see a guy at Hideki at 9.9. Seems like a steal to me. So especially for this type of course where this type of tournament, eagles and birdies are gonna be everything. Hideki is definitely one of the top eagle and birdie makers. So yeah, my favorite play is definitely Day, Hideki as far as GPP. In this range, Paul Casey is safe, great cash play there too. And my ultimate GPP play here would be Brooks this week. He's been decent since his win at the US Open. T6, T17, T13, T49, T18. So nothing like any other golfer would be like, wow, this guy's been pretty good. So but we just know what we can get from Brooks, like at the US Open, where he just was ridiculous. And he's long. So for a course like this where it's long, Brooks is definitely a guy I could see at 9K being a great play and possibly being in contention to win this thing. So I'm sorry. But yeah, so my favorite play is definitely probably Hideki. Safest play is probably Paul Casey, and my GPP play in this range would definitely be Brooks in this range. And Jason Day is worth consideration as well, considering his course history here.
Right. All right. So I did a little bit of digging while you said that. And first, let me get to the Hideki thing. Hideki is teeing with John Rahm and Ricky, so obviously 2 studs. So that's a very interesting tee group there. They're going off at 12:50. They're pretty much the stud group of the afternoon, while DJ, JT, and Spieth is stud group of the morning. And you do make a valid point that I think it was Seth that sent us an article about Hideki with studs, that his scores, lowest adjusted around scores, or his adjusted around scores lower or higher technically in terms of golf than other than his peers when like he's golfed with Spieth. He just gets real nervous because Hideki usually is really quick. Like when I watched him at the PGA Championship, he was quick. He was just kind of like he'd make a read and he would just fucking hit the ball. Like I remember on the 12th hole there, real quick, not to spend too much time on it, but he got out in the rough. Maybe you can call it the fringe. It wasn't a terrible angle, but he just kind of walked up to the hole, walked up to the green, made a look, walked back, and just chipped it. When Spieth goes up there, he walks around the green a few times. He squats down. He tries to take the angle of the green and all this stuff. He takes about 6-7 minutes while Hideki just goes up there in about 45 seconds to a minute. And that can kind of, when Hideki sits around and waits, I mean, I'm not him, so I'm just kind of hypothesizing or whatever the term is. But you make a valid point, and I agree. I do think, though, that Hideki is in play, especially at his range, under 10K, not priced with the studs. After all, he is technically the third best golfer in the world in terms of the golf ranking. So that obviously should mean something, I believe, especially when the events like this are usually won by the best of the best. But back to the Paul Casey thing real quick. First off, his wife is fucking beautiful. Second, I think they had the child. I'm pretty sure because on Twitter he posted saying he's ready to get going, and obviously I'm using normal people to confirm this, but he says, love being back in Chicago, ready to get going this week. That was 13 hours ago. So about 1 p.m. or no, about 11:30 in the morning, he tweeted that, and a few people below it said, congratulations on your new arrival, good luck. And then Luke Elvey, a verified guy, said the same thing. So I'm pretty sure that the baby has come. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm looking at her name is Pollyanna Woodward, his wife, her Instagram, and she's 3 days ago. She said, almost time, baby girl, love, dream, gratitude. Yeah. So I think it happened in the last 2 days. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to go with it. I don't think he's going to withdraw at any point. I probably won't even play him, to be honest, but for the people that do, just be careful that if anything does happen, I mean, I would just look that up. If you guys can figure it out, if you have the time, because if he's on baby watch and it's coming soon, if he wants to see the birth of his child, he'll withdraw. I mean, I don't see why not. But if he's already had the child, then he's probably going to win this event. So it's a tough read for me. We'll see. But let's see here. Bring up the salaries again. So, Jason Day, as you mentioned, course history is through the roof. Can turn it on at any time. When he won the event in 2015, he was the number one golfer in the world. He was smashing. So he can turn back his form at any time. And then you mentioned Brooks. I agree. He's also a great GPP play. I just don't know how he's going to be able to hold up with some of these higher price studs, but you can fit them both. Like if you go Bombers narrative, you can go DJ and Koepka and still have 7,400, or well, it's technically 7,350, which isn't terrible. You're just going to miss that whole mid range. And that's why that's why the Paul Casey read is so tough for me, because in terms of recent form, there is no one better. You can say JT technically with 2 wins and stuff like that, but in terms of consistency, recent form, I mean, over the season, Paul Casey is bar none the best in this field. So best in PGA actually. So it's tough because I don't know. In a GPP with 70 guys, it's really tough to differentiate yourself when you take a stud up top and Paul Casey, because then you're relying on volatile guys down low to separate yourself. Like guys, we'll get into them, but guys like Siwoo Kim or Bud Cauley, Ollie Schneiderjans, guys that you don't want to play, but you're not going to be able to play guys like, let me scroll down a little bit. Who's some chalkier guys up here? Maybe guys like Phil Mickelson might be a little chalky. We'll get into it. Daniel Berger for sure. But anyway, let's drop down to that 8K range there. Good information there, though, man. I'm having trouble with the Paul Casey Brooks thing, because I do think distance is going to be a thing this week, but I don't know how much. And obviously Brooks can smash the ball as well. So down that 8K range, I'm surprised to see that Henrik Stenson is like projected to be the highest owned out of the 8K range. he's actually calculated at the highest ownership out of everyone other than Spieth, with Paul Casey right behind him. And the actual Fantasy National Golf Club lineup generators have put Henrik Stenson in at 23% and Paul Casey at 21%. So Henrik Stenson seems to be popular this week. He's known as the withdrawal guy. He'll withdraw on whenever he feels like it, but don't let that hamper you from playing him. I am fading Henrik Stenson fully. He can win the event. If Henrik Stenson beats me, then I lose. It's all right. His stats don't really match up with his price tag for me. I'm gonna get right to it. I'm only gonna be looking at a sprinkle of Louis Oosthuizen, and then my two main guys are gonna be Justin Rose and Kevin Chappell. It was a tough fade for me on Zach Johnson. He has good course history, but he's just not long enough for me. And then Patrick Cantlay, who should be uber chalk as well. I'm not exactly sure how high he's going to be owned, but excuse me. This is his first event, so I think some people will come off of him just because this is kind of where the studs rise. But this guy hasn't missed a cut all year. 11 or 12 events, no missed cuts. Used to be the number one amateur in the world. Arguably, he's a top 15 golfer in the world right now. And maybe some argue that I've seen on Twitter that in 5 to 6 years, Patrick Cantlay will be top 5 in the world, which is a very hot take in my opinion. We haven't seen enough from him to really garner that, but I will be fading Cantlay based off of ownership, and I will also be fading Henrik Stenson because of ownership, not because there isn't anything I really super don't like. I mean, Henrik Stenson's kind of a terrible scrambler, but that's not the end all be all. So what about you, man? Me, Justin Rose, Kevin Chappell, and Louis. I'll get into some stats after you share your piece, man.
Yeah, 8K range. Yeah, I can understand Stenson being highest owned in this range. 8-9, especially for a guy like Stenson, who we've seen at 11.5, 9,000 plus 10,000 earlier in the year. A guy has been in pretty decent to good form recently. I mean, he just had a win at the Wyndham and T17 2 weeks ago. So at 8-9 for a guy like that is definitely a bargain. But like you said, he also has been known to withdraw, and he's also sometimes just has meltdown. So he's definitely a GPP play for sure. I wouldn't play him in cash. Now, as far as cash, Luis, this guy has shown that he has consistency, man. He didn't have the best outing last time. Well, it was mainly round 3 last week, 2 weeks ago. He had a 69, 69, and a 69 on closing on round 4, but he shot a 74 on round 3. So if you think that round 3 doesn't happen, he's right up there with the top guys. So I think Lewis at 8-8, great price for him. This guy we've seen him T2 at the PGA, T10 at the Northern. He's proven that he can hang with the best of them. So at 8-8, I do like him this week. Sergio at 8-7, man, is as a guy. Sergio, man, he's susceptible to eagles, susceptible to aces, susceptible to birdies. And at 8-7 for a guy who won the Masters this year, is nuts. He hasn't been like in the best form recently, but he hasn't been terrible. I mean, T37, T39, T35 last week, shot a 67 round 1 and a 67 on round 4 to close it. So that's what you like, guys closing it strong. Rounds 2 and 3 is where he really struggled, especially round 3. Just had a really bad day. But a guy like Sergio at 8-7, man, this is a guy who can score you some DraftKings points, man. He got T35 and still scored 66 DraftKings points. And there's guys who placed higher than him with less or about the same amount of DraftKings points. So Sergio at 8-7, definitely a guy you can't sleep on. Cantlay, the up and comer, man. Yeah, you pretty much nailed everything about Cantlay. I think Cantlay can be sort of a safer cash play too. I wouldn't mind playing him in cash. As far as GPP, I don't know if he has the upside for me maybe at 8-6. Maybe you can get away with a T10, T15. So definitely is worth a look. And then let's see, there's a lot of guys in the 8K range, man. Justin Rose, this is a former guy who's won events. He has 7 top 10s this year. It looks like his form is finally turning around from when he was getting cut and placed in T63s. He's placed back-to-back T10s here. And for a T10 at 8.5, that's something I'd be in consideration for. So Justin Rose is definitely on the lookout. Be on the lookout for him. Looks like his form is finally coming back in the right direction. So you want to ride that train before everybody else is back on him. And then Matt Kuchar at 8.2. I don't really need to say much about Matt Kuchar. He's about as consistent as they come. He had a kind of a rough outing for him 2 weeks ago. Get placed in T56, but still got you for doing DraftKings points, and that's scoring +2 for that day. That's uncharacteristic of him. So Matt Kuchar at 8.2. Nothing negative to say about him. Definitely catch game. Definitely a solid filler for your GPPs. At 8.2, it seems like a steal. And then, I think the last guy I like in this range is Patrick Reed. This is a guy who came off a T2 at the PGA, T6 last week, T20 in the Northern Trust, at 8K for a guy who has, T2, maybe even can win this thing upside. Definitely seems like a steal for me. I believe he doesn't have any course history here. I'm not 100%, but Patrick Reed at 8K though, great play. Great GPP play for sure. Not so much as cash, but definitely upside and GPP is there. So yeah, favorite plays here: Patrick Reed, Matt Kuchar is just a lock. I love Sergio as a GPP play here. Guy who can win it at 8.7 is always amazing. And Henrik Stenson is definitely going to be one of the highest owned players, but for a good reason at 8.9. But he does have that withdrawal risk with him, so definitely would stick to him more in GPP plays. Should have anything else to add on?
Yeah, it was just the Patrick Reed thing. I do have him start as well. I had my thing set he was at the bottom of the 8K there, so I missed him. But I definitely agree. Patrick Reed. I think his wife also just had a child as well. I'm not entirely sure, so I probably shouldn't have said that without knowing. That came into my head as when I said it. But he is in good form. He's found his form. The reason he wasn't doing well earlier is just because he couldn't putt for shit really. I remember actually at the PGA Championship, his brother was on the bag, and his brother would go and lie on the green, literally on his chest, would lie on the green to try to get the angle. The only caddy, the only one that would do that. He would just lie flat down and try to get that angle. So Patrick Reed has been known for being a pretty bad putter, but yeah, he has shown to come around a little bit, so I can get behind that. He definitely fits my key stats. He's 10th in all my key stats, which is better than Poulter, better than Kuchar, better than Zach Johnson, better than Cantley, better than Justin Rose, better than Sergio, better than Louis. So at only 8K, I'm definitely going to have some heavy exposure. He allows you to fit in a stud and that mid 8K to maybe up to Paul Casey range as well. So I can definitely get behind some Patrick Reed. And my big one is Kevin Chappell. I know I don't remember if I mentioned him or not, but Kevin Chappell is 5th in my key stats, top 20 in all 5 that I'm looking at, which is fairly rare for a guy that low in price. Even Paul Casey at 9,200 is 38th in driving distance. Kevin Chappell is top 20 in all of it: strokes gained, par 4, tee to green, birdies around the green, driving distance. I also do not think that Kevin Chappell is going to be as highly owned as some people thought. Yeah, he's only projected for 13%. He is also a little volatile. He can win an event, but he can also shoot himself out of an event. But with no cut, I am willing to take that chance. So very good points there. I don't have anything to argue really. Yeah, man. The only thing I would say is that with Kuchar, I like him in terms of stats, but I don't know if he'll. Last week, I felt like that was kind of his wheels falling off. I mean, I need to bring up the FedEx Cup. I'm pretty sure he's in the top. Like, he's cemented himself. So I'm going to bring that up just real quick. But because, guys, for the championship next week, only the top 30 will make it. And the final event will only be 30 players. And if they're outside the top 30, they're done. Even if they finish top 5, if they're like the 68th player and they finish with the top 5, they still might not make the top 30, depending on how the guys inside the top 30 finish. So real quick here, the normal guys that you think at the top, Spieth, JT, and DJ. So you really don't have to worry about those guys. But let's see here. Let me scroll down to the borderline here. So guys like Sergio, 34th, he has something to play for. Let's see, Patrick Cantlay, 41st, he has something to play for. I suggest you guys do it yourself because I don't want to read this whole list. But all you guys got to do is go to the PGA Tour website, FedEx Cup standings, and bang, it gives you the list 1 through 70. Well, it actually goes beyond 70, but you don't worry about it because only the top 70 guys are in this field. So, yeah, that's what I got there. So we can just drop down to the mid 7K.
Real quick, Curtis asked, what are our favorite top 3 cash game plays this week?
Oh yeah, good catch there. I didn't have the chat in the forefront there. So for me, real quick, man, I must say Cantlay would be a good cash play in my opinion. It's a little risky just because he has no course history, but he has shown that every course he's golfed this year has been a new course to him, and he still hasn't missed a cut. So I'm willing to take that chance. Usually, you don't want to take chances in cash, but I think Cantlay, you're going to be with higher ownership. So it's not like if he busts, it's just you that bust. It should be about 25 to 30% of the field that bust in a cash game. And obviously Paul Casey as well. And then I'd say either JT or Jason Day. If we're talking high range, we'll get into some cash game plays down low as well. But in upper range, in the higher tier, those are my 3 that I like. I would usually say Kuchar, but I'm a little worried about Kuchar this week. So what about you, ACP?
I do want to mention one thing before I talk about these cash game plays that I forgot to mention earlier is I don't know if you've heard, Jason Day actually got rid of his caddy before this event. So he does have a new caddy. I don't know how much you guys play into that whole narrative. We have seen Rory after he got a new caddy not look the hit. Well, Rory has injury, so that's a whole different thing. But Jason Day, he made a caddy change. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic there to see if it actually helps him in the long run or if it's, something that's going to be really tough for him to work out what he normally works out with his caddies while performing. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about rostering Jason Day this week. I don't know if it was just, like a big chemistry issue with the last guy or something going on. So maybe this is a positive change for him. But as far as my top 3 cash game plays, I mean, you obviously can't go wrong with a guy like Spieth. I also think as cash game, just for the price, like Leishman at 7.7, that's a pretty decent cash play for me. Kuchar, and then yeah, I mean, those probably my top 3 cash game plays.
Definitely Leishman though, real quick.
Yeah,
I just looked at his Vegas odds. If we're going that low, definitely Leishman. He's 40-1, which is better than Sergio, Berger, Louis, Cantlay, guys that are 1,000 more than him. So
yeah,
I definitely put Leishman in my cash game line. I'm press the little lock button on Leishman. And real quick, I just looked up that Jason Day thing. Good catch there. So I'm not going to read the whole article, but it says he let go of his former caddy named Colin Swatton, but it's also he's been his coach since he was 12 years old, and he will remain his swing coach. He just said there wasn't good. Let's see here. There wasn't good chemistry, and he said his attitude is not good coming to the golf course because of things he can't control. Obviously, it's not a good formula for success out here. So they met in Australia. Yeah, where Day's mother had sent him after the golfer's father had died. So they met a very long time ago. So he's still going to be a swing coach, but I don't know the name of I don't know who his new caddy is going to be, but good read there. To me, I don't know. I'm just kind of lukewarm on it. Doesn't affect me too much. But
when Phil got rid of his caddy, he didn't do well either, huh?
Yeah, he didn't do well for a few weeks. Yeah, and I don't know. Phil he's I don't want to say he's getting a little old because obviously golf seems to be the one sport that seems to be quote unquote timeless. But yeah, I take it as everyone's different basis. Like I don't know what personally goes on between them and their caddies, so I don't feel like I have a read either way, to be honest. I don't know.
Put it this way. Put it this way. If he goes out there and sucks, I wouldn't be surprised. And if he goes out there and just kills it, I wouldn't be surprised. So I mean, honestly, I don't think you should play too much into the caddy narrative, guys. But it is something to keep in the back of your minds when you're thinking about where you're going to roster Jason Day.
Right. And also, for what it's worth, Jordan Spieth throughout the first pitch of the Cubs game yesterday. Tuesday. Well, that was technically yesterday, but
Jordan
anyway,
Spieth,
all right.
Golden Child. All right.
I didn't know Spieth was a lefty because he hits righty with a golf club, so that's interesting. But
yeah, I'm a lefty who hits righty too. It helps with your swing, at least for the power or whatever.
Hey Curtis, man, I'm gonna be in that $5 single entry double up, I think, as well. I think I'm gonna throw a cash lineup in there just to save my $3 GPP and my $5 GPP in case they shit the bed, because I'm gonna have to take a risk in the GPP. But we have one other question from Andrea Reyna here saying, who is the most chalky player this week? And according to numbers, they say Henrik Stenson, but I do think it's either going to be Leishman in terms of ownership, just because people are going to go to his odds value and see him at 40-1, as I mentioned a little earlier, better than Sergio and guys that are $1,000 more than him. So I think Leishman's going to garner a lot of ownership. And then a guy like a Paul Casey, I don't know. After that, it's kind of a little shaky because I think it's a huge convolution or a kind of a mix of guys. Like there's going to be about 4 or 5 guys I think that touch 20%, but no one that shoots up to 30. So it's not going to be. There's no one that's going to be uber chalk like there has been in recent weeks when there's guys like Leishman at 6,900 when he should be at his price now close to 7,700. So I do think Leishman secretly is going to be the chalkiest guy on the slate. What about you, man? Who do you think is going to be the chalkiest before we get into that 7K range real quick?
No, definitely probably Leishman. Just his price alone, too, after his performance last week. 2 weeks ago. Yeah, definitely Leishman I agree with the same guys. Stinson probably. And then obviously Ricky Fowler is always up there in ownership as well. But yeah, you want to get down to the 7K range?
Yeah, let's do it. So for me, I'm gonna keep it pretty short and sweet. That's probably my downfall a little bit here, but I'm gonna be looking at like 4 guys in the 7K range to fill out my my lineups here, and they were Tony Finau, who I'm a little worried about being chalky because he just seems to be the DFS darling, but he's a bomber. Eagle upside, as we've mentioned with a few other golfers up top. Mark Leishman, again, pretty chalky. Definitely my cash game play. And a few head scratches to some people that don't follow golf as much as I do. But Pat Perez, who actually is in the top 10 in the FedEx Cup standings. I didn't know that, actually. He kind of seems like it came out of nowhere, but he is actually playing for that $10 million first prize. It's not like he's in the 65th spot and he needs a miracle, like where he needs to win or something like that. So Pat Perez, I can get behind. His stats don't work out that well for me. 57th in birdies, 60th in driving distance. So not great. 31st in strokes gained tee to green. So nothing inside the top 10 in this field. But I'm willing to take a gamble. I don't think he's going to be more than 12%. I'm going to actually search his name right now. 1 second. If he is, he's projected at 7.4. So I'm willing to take that chance. I think he shot a nice round last week as well, or 2 weeks ago. Let me just check his last 24 rounds here. And then also while that loads up, Charles Schwartzel at 76, Charlie Hoffman as well at 76. Both go 12th and 11th in my key stats, respectively. And then the play that I'm shaky on that it's hard for me not to play is Daniel Berger. The guy's won twice this year at 7,500. He is a good golfer. I don't know. I'm more honestly, I have him starred here as to put in my lineups, but I'm out of all the guys, I'm more on a fade for Berger than anyone else in this range. Like I do think I'll play Schwartzel, Hoffman, Perez, and Leishman way more than I'll play Berger. But Berger's the one guy, if I had to say that I'm scared of one guy to ruin my day, because I'll have guys all around him except for Berger, and he'll top 5. Then that's the guy I'm worried about. What about you, man?
So we're just doing the 7-5, right? Or we're doing all 7?
Yeah, I just went to
Just
7-5,
okay.
honestly.
First of all, I got a few questions on your takes on these guys. It's gonna influence what I do a lot. What do you think about Kevin Na this week after putting up a T6 last week?
Right. Yeah, I thought you were gonna ask me about him because I know in the past streams you've mentioned Kevin Na. So the one thing for me is the same reason I won't be playing Zach Johnson. He's not long enough for me. He's 68th in driving distance out of 70 golfers. Obviously that's not the end all be all, and he's top 26 in my other 4 key stats and 13th overall. So I guess I could say that's another play where I'm kind of just if he beats me, he beats me, man. So he's a great par 4 scorer, 16th in the field. I am a little worried about that. If he can make a birdie run easily, but I'm just let me check that ownership real quick. Nah, here he's going to be projected at 17%. I didn't expect that. So at that ownership, to me that's almost an auto fade, especially with their projecting Finau at only 9%. So
you really think Finau only goes 9%?
That's what Fantasy National says. I don't know, man. I think he's only projected that ownership because so many people are going to go up to the studs, and they're going to be left with like 8. Like they're only going to be able to grab one guy between 7.7 and 8, and I think it's going to be Leishman or Patrick Reed before. Wow, I just blanked. Who are we just before Finau? Sorry, I just blanked there. But I think it's going to be Reed or Leishman as their first read, and honestly, that's my first read as well. So maybe I don't know. What's your take on that, man?
I don't really have a take. That's why I was asking, man, because I don't know if last week was just an outlier, or I keep saying last week, it was 2 weeks ago, but I don't know if that Dell's Technologies Championship was an outlier or if his form is back in the right direction. Because he had a T4 at the Wyndham, you can take that at whatever, T29 at the Northern, and then T6 at the Dell. And like I said, like guys who aren't like making the most amount of money, like these type of tournaments where they're competing for 10 million for that championship, like that's what a lot of these guys be motivated by. So Kevin Na seems like that type of guy where he wants to place well in these high prize pool tournaments. So I don't know what to do with him, man. Definitely a GPP play for sure. Wouldn't touch him in cash game at all.
Real quick, he is 40th in the FedEx Cup standings. So you're right. He does have a lot to play for. He needs to get in the top 30 and a good finish. Probably a top. Let me try to do some math here. Probably a top 30, and he'll get in the top 30. Obviously, that depends on some of the guys in the top 30 doing poorly. But there's a few guys in the top 30 that I'm not completely sold on. Guys like Webb Simpson, Jason Duffner, Henley, even, who we've kind of talked up a little bit in the past weeks, but these guys aren't the best of guys. Brendan Steele as well in the top 30s. Bill Haas is 30th. So a couple guys could drop, and Kevin Na could go up there with a good finish. So you make a good point. I do think it's a good GPP play, but at 17% projected, I don't think he's going to hit that. I really didn't even have Kevin Na on my radar, and that's why I'm kind of surprised. I haven't heard him in any. I've only listened to a few podcasts this week. And I haven't heard any Kevin Na mentions really, so I'm surprised to see the 17% nod there. But go ahead, man. Who else?
Yeah, I was surprised as well. In this range, I mean, Finau, you pretty much nailed everything about Finau. I haven't played Finau in a while, mainly because he's been so chalky recently, and he hasn't really performed up to his ownership percentages.
You're selling me, man. He was 2 over, and I needed him to go. He made the cut, and it was like moving day on Saturday, and he shoots like 6 over. Yeah. I was heated.
Exactly. So the thing what you get with Finau, though, is if you look at his game logs at the RBC, you saw he had 3 eagles at that tournament. That's the upside of a guy like Tony Finau, is a guy who is long and really susceptible on these par 5s to get these eagles and birdies. So he's definitely, for me, like I wouldn't play Finau in cash. I would play him strictly in GPP. But he's definitely in play. A guy at 7-7, how it's still man. Mark Leishman, like at 7-7, like last well, I don't say last week, so I don't want to keep correcting myself. The last tournament, when he was 6'9", it was the most obvious lock of the day. Like, this guy is too good to be priced this low. And at 7-7, I'll be going right back to Leishman Well. You know, he was leading for 3 days straight, and dropped some on the 4th day last tournament. But at 7-7, even at like last tournament at 6-9, like him even being top 3 was like more than enough for what you needed from him. Now him winning would have been awesome, but 7-7, yeah, I'll be going right back to the well on Mark Leishman. Webb Simpson is a guy I don't normally play, and I probably won't be playing this week, but he's definitely interesting to me. I think Charlie Hoffman is a guy. Who I would definitely only play him in GPP, but we've seen glimpses of Charlie Hoffman when he's on, and he can score birdies with the best of them, and a few eagles at times. So Charlie Hoffman at 7-6. I think he could be in play this week. I'm not saying he's going to win or anything, but I definitely think he might be able to score you some DraftKings points this week. You pretty much covered everything for Pat Perez that I wanted to say. The guy is good. T6 last week. Schwartzel, I've heard names that people talking about. A guy I always stop at when I see him, Russell Henley. So, yeah, Russell Henley, man. When he gets going, when he gets those birdies rolling, he can, really compete with the best of them. The question is he going to do it this week? I don't know. I don't have a read on Henley this week. What I will tell you is that if you played him in GPP, I wouldn't blame you. And if I see Henley on the top of the leaderboards, the first 2 days, I wouldn't be surprised. So Henley at 7-6, you can definitely do a lot worse than Henley. And then Berger is somebody that I've heard talked about a little bit. His recent form hasn't been too great, which is the biggest thing for me. But his course history here is apparently great. And Berger's one of those guys who we've seen this year who can, and gets those birdies start going. He can go out and win. So if you're talking about a tournament play at 7-5, Daniel Berger's your guy. His recent like I said, recent form hasn't been too great, but he does have those glimpses where when he's locked and loaded, he's a great play, and he can go out and win. Let me see. Sorry, I had a message. Okay, at these lower 7-5 guys, I'm honestly surprised that Ollie somehow snuck his way into this tournament. But since he is here and there's no cut, I got a strong consideration for Ollie this week. He hasn't looked good his last 2 tournaments. He got cut both tournaments. But Ollie's the type of guy, he's going to get bogeys. He's guaranteed to get bogeys, man. I mean, it'd be hard for you to ever see him with a bogey-free round. But he makes up with these birdie streaks, rare eagles. Sometimes he does do eagles, like RBC. He had 2 eagles. So this guy, he's a birdie maker, man. He's the definition of a GPP play. Ollie is the definition of a GPP play. If you want a guy with a lot of upside at 7-5, definitely Ollie would be somebody to consider. Wouldn't touch him ever in cash, especially in this type of field. But as far as GPP, Ollie Snyder-Jans is a guy I would look at. Who else are we looking at? Brandon Steele here, man. I won't be playing Brandon Steele this week. There was a time when I played Brandon Steele religiously. His form just hasn't been too great recently, and it's actually been bad. I mean, 2 cuts. His last 3 tournaments, he got 2 cuts, and the last tournament he competed at was T56. I mean, we saw a glimpse of him on the leaderboards in the top, after I think the 2nd day. I was like, whoa, Brandon Steele. And then 3rd day, he shoots a 78. So, but I would have fought you for trying to throw him in the lineup. This was a guy before, earlier in the year, he never missed a cut. His form recently hasn't been too good, but that should get him really low ownership. And I could definitely see the merit into play. And then I think the last guy that's even worth really talking about in this range is the ultimate GPP play every week, Siwoo Kim. I mean, if I ever see you play Siwoo Kim in cash game, I'll slap you. But
and take your money.
take your money. But GPP, I mean, if you're talking about a guy who can just go out and win like he did fucking at the Players.
Right. 0.02%.
Yeah, like literally nobody really owned him, if anybody did. Siwoo Kim is your guy. 7.5, the ultimate GPP play. When he's on, he is on. But he also, he has back issue. He's withdrawal risk. He's at risk of just shooting a 78 on round 1. So what you do with him is up to you. I won't be rostering him since I'm only going to do one line. But if you see Siwoo Kim win this thing, don't be surprised. So ultimate GPP play here, Siwoo Kim. But just to recap a little bit, I think my favorite just play in this range has to be Leishman, as everybody else is going to be favorite play Leishman. And then my favorite probably GPP play, strictly GPP play. I like Ollie as far as a birdie maker. I do like Henley, and then I do like Berger this week. It's just what type of Berger are we gonna get this week?
Right, and that's honestly the point for all of them there, because Ollie is himself out, but he can also hang with some of the best, and then same thing with Henley as well, as he was the first round leader, or tied for the first round leader just a few weeks ago. I can't remember the event, but yeah. So I agree with a good bit of that. The thing on Siwoo Kim is if you're playing the narrative, I might make a lineup where I kind of do play the narrative where I'm trying to get guys that are like right on the outside of the top 30 and that are trying to get into the top 30. And guys like Cantlay, 41st, Kevin Na, 40th, Molinari, 42nd. Homeboy Siwoo Kim is 45th, and he is technically a world-class golfer. He's been touted very well, not by DFS guys, but by actual golf like golf coaches and stuff like that, like real life golf players really like his game. He does deal with back issues. I'm not willing to say he has arthritis because he withdraws so much. It seems like he might, but he does have lingering back issues. And for a guy that if he starts very poorly where he knows he has no chance of making the top 30, like if he shoots 7 over on the first round, you damn might see a withdrawal, to be honest. So it is definitely a risk to take, as we've said for the last few weeks. But to be honest, I think I might make a line with Siwoo Kim, maybe in that $1 solo shot, that losing $1, like the risk reward is pretty high in terms of getting him under 5% and a guy that can win. Like the Players, the fields are really no different. Like this, you're playing the top 70 golfers in the world. The Players, you're playing the top 140 golfers in the world. So I can get behind a sprinkle of Siwoo Kim, but I can't say I'm recommending him because I don't want to be attached to a lot of losing lineups there if he does withdraw. But I will, if I'm making 20 lineups, like Curtis said, he's 80% Berger, which isn't a problem. If that's who you're strong on, do that. It's better than trying to sprinkle out guys out. Like if you're making 20 lineups, it's better to have a core about 15 guys, I'd say, than trying to play 40 guys, just having like 10% exposure to 10, 15 of them. Because if one guy holes in one, gets a ace for you or hole in one, and then you only have them in 2 lineups, that's not going to do too much for you, because what's the chances that 1 or 2 lineups is the nuts? But when you have a strong core and you have a guy that gets a hole in one, which I need to bring up because there's some really short holes that might happen this week. But when guys get these hole in ones and you got them at 75, 80%, you're almost guaranteed 1 or 2 lineups to be doing well, unless you literally shit the bed everywhere else, which is seemingly what I do. But anyway, so we have real quick here. I did put the yardage of the holes, so we do have some very short par 4s, and that's why I was kind of looking at distance this week. So let's see here. First, the par 3s are also fairly short. The hole number 17 is only 223 yards, par 3. Hole number 11 is only 170 yards, par 3. Hole number 2 is a 196-yard par 3. And hole number 6, the last of the par 3s, obviously I didn't do that in order. I was just going in order of how I saw them, but is 217 yards. So nothing like abnormal or out of the blue. And then the par 4s, we got one. The very first hole is only 360. Then we got the hole number 7 is 352. Hole number 15, 334. Let's see here. I think there's one more here, 17 or 18 here. I think it's – oh, no. Okay, so that's it. Those are the short ones below about 360. So there's a few right at 400, but nothing crazy. The longest one is 463 or 465 as well. But the par 5s, 2 of them are 585, and then one touches 600, and that's it. There's nothing crazy. So I can get to that. So let's get to this next range down here. Did spend a little time on that. My fault on that. Let's see. So we're down here in the 7.4 to 7K range. We got a lot of names again. Obviously, you won't be able to cover everyone. You're gonna have to make a stand, and I'm pretty much doing that exact thing. So we got about 20 guys in this range, maybe, yeah, about 20 guys from 7K to 7.4, and I have 4 starred. So I am making a pretty strong stand here, I think, or maybe 5. Or I have 6 starred, but I'm not going to play them all. I'm going to kind of deliberate on it a little bit later. So right now, I'm looking at Francesco Molinari, Kyle Stanley, Jamie Lovemark, Lucas Glover, Robert Shreb, Gary Woodland, and Grayson Murray. And my explanation for, I'll go just a little bit. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but obviously Kyle Stanley is ACP's boy. I mean, if he was to meet one golfer and shake his hand, it'd probably be Kyle Stanley, I feel like. So he's a scorer, great ball striker, very accurate, not as long as I'd like, but for how accurate he is, he makes up for not being able to hit it 320 a drive. So most of the guys that are bombers are known to spray it as well. Guys like Johnny Vegas, even DJ at times can swing it off the fairway, but he hits it so long that if his approach shot is fine, he usually makes up for it. But Kyle Stanley rarely misses fairways. One of the best accuracy guys on the whole tour, not just this event, but the whole tour in general. Last week he showed up for it started to fall back during the weekend, kind of like Leishman did on Sunday. But Stanley was holding his own. He was sitting there at 9 or 10 under, above John Rahm, above Paul Casey for a little bit. So he can hang with some of the best golfers, and he's playing let's see, Kyle Stanley real quick. I was just looking at. He's 19th. So if he finishes outside the top 40, like if he really bombs this week, he might miss the top 30. So he's definitely playing for something as well. Anyone outside of the top 12, I'd say, has a chance of missing the top 30 if they really don't do well. If they just play average, like finish in the top 40, then they're probably good. But if you finish in that bottom 10, top 60 to 70, then you're not looking too good. And Stanley is kind of in that range where if he doesn't do well, he could miss the top 30. So I do like some Stanley to keep that alive. Plus, he's one of those guys that isn't the most wealthy of the golfers. If you look at some of these guys, like Rory has a net worth of like $250 million. DJ's up there, Speed's up there, JT's up there. You're looking at some of the richest golfers, some of the quote-unquote best golfers as well. And you get Kyle Stanley, a guy who's only won a couple events, relatively new on the scene, has a few million, but he's still playing for that paycheck, those sponsorships, you know what I mean? Like Rory McIlroy took over the PGA video game when Tiger Woods got all those DUIs and stuff like that. So Kyle Stanley's can be seen as like the next, I don't know, this is definitely a hot take, but seen as the next big thing, similar to Cantley, I feel like, especially if he does well. That's definitely going to get his name out there if he can get a top 10, and I can see that happening. So, hey, what's going on, Seth? Good to see you, man. And then let's see here. I was looking at Molinari. So Molinari is the same thing. Not as long. He's actually worse at distance than Stanley, but very accurate tee to green. I've mentioned this almost every week since I was there, but the PGA Championship, this guy was on fire. Didn't miss the fairway, didn't miss the green, just bang, bang, birdie, birdie, birdie. Just everything was clicking for him. And obviously, Molinari is also volatile. I mean, 8 weeks ago, he couldn't make a cut for a while. So he's definitely understands the importance. The best golfers, and he is a very good golfer. He kills on the Euro scene. He understands the importance of doing well. So I can get behind some Molinari as well, especially at 7.4. Nothing stands out except that tee to green stat. And I guess par 4 scoring at 14th isn't terrible, but everything else is outside of the top 30. And then my GPP play, I think those guys are going to be a little chalky. Not chalky. Like Stanley's not going to touch 12%. Molinari's probably shouldn't touch 12%. Just to make sure I did want to get a number on Molinari because that's the guy I'm worried about. They got him at about 12 to 14%. Stanley at also 12%. So, but Jamie Lovemark, they're projecting at 4%. And I think that is a play I'm willing to take. I'm a little shaky on his recent form. He hasn't been great, but at 7.3 with no cut, a guy that can make a few eagles or has the capability of doing it, I can get behind that. I was going to put Johnny Vegas on my list as well, but I can't do that. Way too volatile for me. I mean, he can win and get last back-to-back weeks. So speed up a little bit. And then I got Lucas Glover there, 17th in par 4 scoring, 30th in driving distance. I like the driving distance. He made a hole-in-one last week or 2 weeks ago, which I did want to mention. I kind of got to it a little bit. But with those short holes, those short par 3s, you may see 3 or 4 hole-in-ones again this week. And with no cut, those hole-in-ones could be huge. Obviously, it's all luck. You can't really project them. But you can kind of see guys who are susceptible to it. Like Sergio's made multiple hole-in-ones this year. I don't know if anyone else has really made multiple, but I know Sergio's made 2 or 3 at least. So, and then Robert Streb and Gary Woodland, both kind of similar plays to me. Gary Woodland's the chalk, and Streb is the pivot. Streb is I've been on Streb ever since the PGA Championship. I played him then at like 2% owned. Didn't do me super well, but did make the cut though, which was good. But a 4th and around the green, so a good scrambler, not as long as I'd like, but good on the par 4s. And then Gary Woodland is just like Molinari, great tee to green, great distance wise, but doesn't do well really at birdies. So that's where I'm at. Last guy was Grayson Murray. Just recent form, honestly, nothing really else. I mean, guy kills the ball, 9th in driving distance, 8th in birdies, but that's obviously because I haven't searched it the last 24 rounds. I mean, the guy wasn't doing shit earlier on the year except hitting on high school girls. So nowadays he's actually playing good golf. So we'll see what happens. He's absolutely dead last in par 4 scoring. And I think 2 or 3 events ago, maybe this might be actually before the FedEx Cup, but this guy shot like a fucking 10 on a par 4, I think. So like you got to be a little careful with him because he is dead last in par 4 scoring. So definitely GPP play. None of these guys I'm willing to play in cash, except for Kyle Stanley or Molinari, just because I think giving them 4 rounds, they can hit value for you in a cash lineup. So sorry to spend so much time on that, man, but there's a lot of names there. But that's pretty much it for me from 7 to 7.4. I mean, there's a couple guys I might, if you get on and you explain it to me, I might move to. But as of right now, I'm kind of pat. What about you, man?
All right, so I don't want to spend too much time on the guys you did already. I think Molinari is exactly what you said, man. High risk, high reward type of play there. Yeah, Kyle Stanley. There's a slight echo, man. A slight echo. Kyle Stanley, like really susceptible to get birdies, man. Just a really good ball striker, man. So at 7.4, like I told Dex earlier before my before this event or before this live stream, is that for some reason whenever I have my best lineups, Kyle Stanley is in them. So I'm always going to be a fan of Kyle Stanley. So take that as you will. But he's solid as far as the DraftKings score, and we saw him T2 for the first 2-3 days, and then just so slowly fell off there. So yeah, Kyle Stanley, I like him this week. Ryan Moore is interesting. Definitely just GPP play, but I wouldn't touch him really. Kevin Tway, just for his length alone, I think is worth a look. I think he might be slightly overpriced for my taste, but
Oh, you're right. Fifth in driving distance. I straight passed that
yeah,
up. And he's
just
a birdie maker, and he got the hole in one too. So
yeah. So he's susceptible to those aces. He can get them eagles, and he's a birdie maker, and he's long too. So at 7-4, I think you can do a lot worse there. So
yeah, like Ryan Moore.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Phil Mickelson, man. I don't know what to think of Phil. T6 last event. I don't know where his ownership is going to be. I'll be interested to see what his projected ownership is because he's usually a decently owned player because it's Phil. And I don't know if he's going to come out and do a repeat of last week or if he's just going to go back to what he's been doing recently and not playing too well. And it's also he Phil's not too long, so I don't want to play too much into the long narrative, but as far as what it is, this is a longer course, so I don't know. I don't think I'll be on Phil this week. I can't blame you if you do want to play him. But I definitely probably be fading Phil this week. Yeah. Going down here, Keegan is Keegan. He's been more consistent recently, but until he shows me like a T10 type of tournament, I'll be off of him.
They're also projecting him close to 10%, which is a little high for my liking.
Yeah.
Real quick, what's your take on Adam Hadwin? I know I kind of just dropped down.
I was literally about to get down there. Yeah,
he's turned it around a little bit, but
yeah. So I was gonna ask you what your take was, but yeah. We finally seen Adam Hadwin with a decent tournament, T13. He scored really low on that round 2 and round 3. Not what you won that round 4 with the 73 there, but still enough to get a -8. Had the eagle. A 7-1 definitely can do a lot worse. This is a guy who has won this year. He has 4 top 10s. You want to get on him before everybody else is on him, because once he starts, getting back into those top 10s and winning, that's when everybody's going to be, because he was one of the chalkiest plays at one point or another.
Used to be the old Leishman, just sitting at 6.9K almost all.
Yeah. He was like one of those guys. You're like, oh, I got 6.9. Oh, I can just put Adam Hadwin in. So yeah. So I think Adam Hadwin is a decent play this week. Is he 16th? Yeah, probably from that win. He's not too worried about making it, but he still needs to perform. So yeah, I think Hadwin is a really good GPP play this week. Going back up, I think Kisner is always just a GPP play. Just because how low he can go at times. I mean, there was a point where I would never play Kisner, but he seems like he's. I mean, his recent tournaments not too well. 53, 54, 42, whatever. But just how his mentality's changed since the beginning of this year. It used to be like he used to be in the lead and then just slowly but surely just give away the lead all the time. So Kevin Kisner at 7-2, I think you do a lot worse there too. And yeah, 7K range. I know some people might like Lucas Glover. He did have an ace last week. So he's susceptible to getting those aces. And you can see like he plays T30 and that one ace and the eagle, and he scored 82 DraftKings points. Like that's how like fucked up the ace scoring is for golf, is that any guy who gets an ace, man, it breaks the slate in a way. So,
right, especially if they finish well.
Yeah.
If they kind of fall off, maybe not on the winning lineup, but if you finish top 20 with an ace, it's almost guaranteed that you're taking off, like you're going in the winning lineup. So
exactly, yeah. So you want to, I mean, it's hard to guess who's gonna get those aces, obviously, but you want to find guys who are susceptible to getting them. So Lucas Glover, I mean, definitely is worth a look at 7-2. And just going down here, Wesley Bryan hasn't been in the best form.
Second to last in my key stats, dead last in driving distance, dead last in strokes gained to the green, 69th in par 4 scoring. Oh boy, this is only the last 24 rounds, so you pretty much said it. Now recent form is not good.
I'll be staying away from him. I think at 7K, 7-1, I think maybe Carroll's House worth a look, and then Scott Brown's he's just too safe for me. Like, doesn't do anything exciting.
He's honestly, I hate like to point this out. He's like 4th to last in Vegas odds. I was kind of surprised. Like Kevin Tway it's Kevin Tway. Well, all right. There's five guys at 300 to 1. Charles Howell, Danny Lee, Kevin Tway, Sean O'Hare, and Luke List. And then Mackenzie Hughes and Scott Brown have been bet recently. I don't know why. People are just throwing away money. And they've been moved to 250 to 1 from 300 because they used to be both 300. So that's crazy. I don't know. I just talked up Robert Streb, and he's 250 to 1 as well. But if I'm betting Scott Brown, if I'm playing, I'm not going to play Scott Brown. It'll just be a first round leader bet for me, like a sprinkle, like $2 on it, if that maybe. Same thing with Kevin Tway. If he gets a hole in one in the first round, oh man, you're looking good. But it's still only a first round leader bet for me. But go ahead, man.
What's I was reading the chat, catching up. What's the projected ownership for Hideki?
Yeah, according to Fantasy National, they have calculated ownership at 17%, but the lineup generators only put them in 12.9%.
Okay, so not too bad. Okay, yeah. So and then yeah, that's pretty much it for 7K range. I'm trying to go down to 6.9 since I'm already here. 6.9, the only guys I would even think about really touching in this range, Luke List, what guy I talked about earlier, just because he's so susceptible to getting eagles. And you want that DraftKings scoring, man. So Luke List is a guy we saw round 1 came out really strong last tournament, and then round 4 closed it really strong, and then round 3 was average for him. That round 2 is really what messed him up, mainly because he was in the top contention for after that round 1. So I mean, I don't see Luke List, winning this event, but I do, as far as a DraftKings play, I do see him, relatively low owned and being able to score with some of the higher owned studs as far as DraftKings points, just because of how often he can get these eagles and birdies. So Luke List, I do like at 6'9", strictly GPP. Don't be surprised if he, goes out there and doesn't do shit. But at least you don't have to worry about him missing the cut this week. So Luke List, I do like. And then Xander, I'm not really on. But I could see the merit behind playing him. But in this field, especially, I'm not really too highly on him. And Billy Horschel's like, well, I guess Martin Laird is worth a look. But I'm not on Martin Laird at all. I never play Martin Laird. Billy Horschel and Luke List are probably the only guys in this range that I would even consider playing. And Billy Horschel is in the best form right now. He missed the last 2 cuts. But that makes him a good GPP play. And then, I mean, Lahiri. I never know what to do with this guy, man. Lahiri is definition of GPP play for me. When he gets those birdie streaks going, he can really get it going. And when he's off, he's just, it's terrible. So his recent form is decent. T28 at the Wyndham, which is, was a easier event. Got cut at the Northern, and then Dell DTC is a T56. So if you want a sleeper play, Lahiri is 6'9". Is definitely a guy you could look at. But like I said, these are definitely just sleeper play guys. These are not like strong GPP plays or strong cash games at all. I wouldn't touch any of these guys in cash. But as far as sleeper plays, yeah, Lahiri. Luke List is definitely my favorite price and my player person in this range specifically. And then, like I said, I could see the merit behind maybe a Xander or a Billy Horschel or even a Laird. But Luke List is like the only guy I really am considering touching in this range. What about you, Dex?
Yeah, real quick, I was just reading a small piece about Lahiri. Lahiri is 70th and so he was the last guy in, and he was selected for the international team against the U.S. later this month, for the President's Cup as 16th, which is the last pick. So Lahiri has gotten some breaks here. here he's actually quoted to say the cookies are crumbling his way, supposedly, he says. So that's funny. But for me, since there's only a few guys in that 6.9 area, I think guys that stack two studs, like we talked about, when you're stuck to 69.50 a play, they might have to go 2-3 guys deep at 69. And I'm worried that
Xander?
my two guys were Xander and Luke List. I'm a little worried that Martin Laird is actually a decent play, but I don't have the cojones to play him. It's just I can't ruin a lineup with Martin Laird. It's just if I have everything else right and it's Martin Laird that's wrong, I'm gonna be real pissed at myself. So I think Xander's a little bit safer, but Laird definitely has some upside. He can shoot well. He's very good scrambler and good at par fours. Very bad at birdies though. This is the last 24 rounds where he missed like 4 cuts in a row. But Luke List 10th in tee to green, so a good, obviously a bomber, 8th in driving distance. No one even close really, except for Xander's 15th. But next is Hudson Swafford and Grayson Murray, and those guys obviously GPP plays as well. So this whole range to me is just GPP plays. And I feel like if you're playing a cash game, I'd kind of go more balanced. But for GPPs, Xander Schauffele for me, Luke List. I know Seth, who's in the chat for us. Shout out Seth, who's been a co-host on the show as well a few times. We've talked about Xander Schauffele almost ad nauseum because the guy just doesn't get much respect. He's new, relatively new on tour. Tends to be a good putter. That's what kept him in the top 10 in many events, and that's probably why he's in the top 70 as of now. But to see his driving distance there as well, I can get behind that. 22nd in birdies. No one is in the top 20 in birdies until we get to Grayson Murray, and I don't even need to count that because Grayson has been playing in the bootleg tournaments and until like the last couple of weeks. He was playing at the Barracuda, the Wyndham, which are events that none of the studs are really at. So the next highest guy in birdies is Bryson DeChambeau at 7,200. So that's a gap of about 25 guys that aren't in the top 20 in birdies until you see Xander. So I do like Xander. I'd probably give my edge to Xander over Luke List. Let me just check because Luke List was projected 6%. Schauffele is projected at 12, actually. Okay, so that's interesting. I might 12% still enough for me to play Xander. I think he's not like I don't think he's going to be uber duper uber chalk, so I can still get behind him. I don't know, not to spend too much time on it, but those are the two. I can't find myself going anywhere else. Lahiri, though, as you mentioned, he's won 18 events as a professional golfer, but 0 on the PGA Tour, all in Europe or in side events. Like, I don't know, he might have started on the Indian Tour or something like that before he played the Euro events. But this guy, I remember one of my first times playing PGA golf, I dabbled with the Euro event, just fooling around. I mean, I don't even know if I actually played it or just looked at the prices, but I remember Interbon Lahiri being 5 digits, being over 10K because I don't know. I guess he just plays better in Europe. I mean, I have no confidence in him really. For him to drop from 70th to 30th, he'll need 2 top 3. And I don't see that happening. So I'm off Lahiri with no cut though. He's a good birdie maker generally. He hasn't been recently, but back at the beginning of this year, Lahiri was known as like one of the top 5 birdie makers. I watched him at the PGA Championship as well. He just did what I thought he would do. He would just hit that shit in the rough, like about 15 feet from the green, and then just chip it about 5 feet and miss the putt. And it's just the shit that just makes you like, if you're playing him, you're not playing again. I'm not playing you again. But I don't know. That wasn't the best tout there for him. But no Lahiri for me, man. Just to sum it up, I couldn't do that. Mackenzie Hughes from Canada, not gonna happen for me. The guy surprisingly, I think, did well though.
Who is this guy, man? I don't know this guy.
Yeah, he's a young guy from Canada who started on the Canadian Tour. Got a bid to play in the PGA Tour. Hasn't won an event yet, but with the T13 at Adele, I will say that I only really got onto him or followed his game because of Pat Mayo, because he says the funniest shit. Now he doesn't work for the Fantasy Sports Network, so he doesn't work with this guy named Cam anymore. But Cam Stewart, this ginger, is the funniest motherfucker. Like, he's every time they mention Mackenzie Hughes, he just says, you know he's from here, or he's like, he's from here, you know. It's just hilarious mention because it's from their city that they're from, and like every time Mackenzie Hughes is in the player pool, he always says that, and it's got it stuck in my head. So I ended up looking him up, and he's from Canada. Isn't the best, but very young guy. I think he's only about 24. Let me just double check. A lot of these guys obviously are really young, but
Yeah.
and like a $140. But
Dude.
let's see here. Let's see. He is 26, and he's from Dundas, Ontario, Canada. I mean, excuse me. He went to Kent State University, so I don't really. He won. So he won the 2011 and 2012 Canadian Amateur Championship, and he was the #1 Canadian amateur in 2011. So he's almost like a Patrick Cantlay a little bit, but not as good so far. So I won't be playing him. I could see the merit if you have to differentiate yourself, because I'm pretty sure he's projected at like 2% owned. I don't see anything higher than that. Yeah, 1.8 he's projected at. So trying to go balls to the walls, trying to fade Schauffele and Liz. Like if you're playing absolute chalk, like if you're playing guys like Leishman, Casey, Cantlay in a lineup with like Jason Day, or Jason Day is probably not the right one, but someone up there, maybe JT, if you can fit all of those 4 guys, and you need to get real low to differentiate yourself without saving any salary. I guess Mackenzie Hughes would be the play. I wouldn't play Laird. I'd play Mackenzie Hughes over Martin Laird personally, but obviously I'm a Xander Luke List guy here, so that's what I got. Luckily, there's only like 6 guys at min price. I was expecting there to be like 10, but there's one guy I wanted to bring up to you. I mean, he hasn't been doing well recently, but he's right there at 7K. Brian Harmon. To see him at $100 over minimum price, the guy's won this year, I'm pretty sure. Or let me just double check here. Hold on one second. Actually, I don't think he has.
Yeah, T2 at the Open. Yeah, he has a win this year. He has a win.
So yes, to see a guy, I get him confused with Jim Herman all the time. So yeah, Brian Harmon, at almost min price with the win this year, you're looking at guys that haven't won yet in this range, other than Hadwin, of course. But I don't know, man. I'm just kind of just throwing bullets now. I don't want to recommend them to the viewers, because definitely one of the plays where you put like one lineup out of 20. If you're throwing a single entry or 3 entry max, or even 5 to 10 lineups, I wouldn't touch Harmon. But I don't know. That's all I got, man. What any final takes there on anyone, or any questions or anything like that?
Just looking at some of the questions from the chat. Sam Dizzle asked, you can answer first, I guess.
I'll just type it, but yeah, no worries. Go ahead.
Berger or Reed?
Oh yeah, for me, I'm gonna go Patrick Reed.
I think for me, it's more like Berger is more like GPP for me, and I think Reed would be more of a cash play for me, maybe. So yeah, that's probably how I'd look at it.
I think they're both. Let's see. One second. Reed projected 18, Berger at 14, but he's been put in 19% of lineup. So Reed is, as of now, they're both volatile.
Yeah, for sure.
More recently, Reed's been more consistent. So not to be like contradict myself, but the last 3 or 4 tournaments, Patrick Reed has been consistent, but in the long term, Patrick Reed is volatile. Same thing with Daniel Berger. I mean, the guy has won back-to-back events this year at one point, and then, or it might have been 1-1 and then didn't win, then won. I can't remember, but now he's just barely making cuts. So I'm gonna go with Patrick Reed in all formats personally for me, just because I feel in this it's recent form that kind of trumps ability at this point, because I think they're both very good golfers. So let me just check the standings. Reed's 22nd, Berger's 11th. So Berger, he is, because if you get in that top 10 and you get to that final week, you are essentially playing for $1 million. So I mean $10 million. So Reed's got a little bit more to play for. So I'm gonna go Reed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, guys, I think pretty much just want to reiterate to people who just got here too. when you're building your lineups, guys, if you just got here too, you can go ahead and we watch the rebroadcast because YouTube will put it up as soon as Dexter is done being live. But when you're building lineups this week, guys, keep in mind nobody's getting cut, and you want to really think about DraftKings scoring, guys. Guys who can get a lot of birdies, birdie streaks, eagles, even maybe a lucky ace or two. Well, not two, I mean a lucky ace. That's the guys you want in your lineups this week. Guys who may not necessarily win the event, but keep up with the scoring of some of the top tier guys. That's who you want in your lineups. Cash, my recommendation this week would be to go more mid-tier this week for cash would be my recommendation. Of course, do what you want this week. If you want to play stars and stubs and cash, do what you want. But my recommendation would definitely be more mid-tier, like 9K to 7K guys. And then GPP this week, it's all about roster construction, man. There's a few things I want you to keep in mind. It's like Seth was saying the other day about this was he saying in football, but this applies to anything in DraftKings. It's just because people are chalky doesn't mean everybody's gonna have that specific lineup build, guys. So you got to think about the build along with when you're thinking about ownership. So how many people are gonna put? I'm just gonna say two random guys, right? How many people are gonna put a Decky and fucking I don't know, like Ian Poulter together? They might both have a decent amount of ownership, but it's the combination of how you're playing these guys. Good night, Curtis, man. Shit, 5 hours, bro. Fucking drink coffee when you wake up, man. But yeah, so
something.
yeah. So keep that in mind, guys. Guys who are really susceptible to getting eagles, birdies, birdie streaks, and par 5 scoring is going to be pretty huge this week. So keep that in mind. And yeah, good luck this week. Dex, you have anything else to say?
Yeah. Well, real quick. Sam said he has 11,300 left to, and he's not sure of the roster. That's an odd spot there because if you take Fowler, you're sitting there at 800. But I don't know, man. It's hard for me to answer that question without knowing the rest of your lineup, and I don't want to pretty much give you a lineup and then have it be wrong and then fucking pretty much cause you to lose money. But take your best read from the up top, man, because the guys up top are generally the most consistent. I don't think you're going to see JT, Rom, Fowler, DJ, or Spieth sitting in the bottom 10 of the tournament. So you're not going to lose too much with going either of those guys. But last thing we'll talk about is just a little bit of weather here. Not to keep you guys too long. I know some people are going to want to watch this before the tournament starts at 10 in the morning here. But the weather tomorrow, or technically today and Friday, looks fine. Sunny, not much wind, about 10 miles per hour average. There's no real tee time advantage. Going into the weekend, Sunday, we got to worry about it a little bit, but that's not a big deal. Sundays, like tee times aren't set yet for the guys that are kind of new to golf there. They don't set the weekend tee times until after Thursday and Friday are done. And they base those tee times off of finishing position through Thursday and Friday. So the guys that are in the lead are going to tee off last on Saturday and Sunday for the dramatic effect, so they finish last. So, nothing to worry about in terms of weather. No tee time advantage, really. ACP hit it right in the head. No cut. So the one thing I would say is, honestly, with this, finishing position doesn't even matter. It's DK points. Like, finishing position just gives you those extra points. But if a guy hits a couple eagles and gets an ace, like I remember he didn't get an ace, but Graham DeLette at the PGA Championship had 2 eagles, 2 birdie streaks, and didn't finish that well. But since his DK scoring was so high, the dude was on all the winning lineups and all the GPPs. $1 million maker, Thunder, or not Thunderdome, because I don't think he was even owning Thunder. I don't remember. I didn't play in that, obviously, so I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, guys, that's about it. I can't really think of anything else except this is pretty much our last real week of real golf until, we got next week, which is only a 30-man event. So if you think this is hard building a lineup, wait until there's only 30 guys and we got to do some shit like that. So, and there is going to be some golf going on. This isn't the end of golf for the newer guys. There are going to be more events. It's just not going to be the studs. Like, you're going to see all these guys off. You're going to see new guys on tour that have gained their tour card from the web.com and other events. So, following us, me and ACP, when we do our videos, it's going to be a real edge for you guys to hear about these guys, because a lot of the average DFS players aren't going to know these new guys coming up, or the lower class guys that are now going to be those 9K guys. Like, you're going to start seeing guys like Xander touch 7,500, 8K. Probably see Cantlay at 10K. When these guys like Stenson, Koepka, Paul Casey, Rory, all these guys are going to be off until the new year starts. But there's still going to be golf events, and we're still going to. I'm gonna still keep playing. So that's it, guys. Any other last second questions we got? And we'll. I don't see any, so we should be good. Seth did mention leaving a little bit of dough on the table, so I'll cover that just really quickly. If ACP, if you want to add anything as well. ACP mentioned that roster construction is huge, and that's true. You could get away with not leaving any money on the table in smaller dollar tournaments based off of how you construct your lineup. Just the perfect example for me is if you're leaving money on the table, I would do that. And if you're building a certain lineup where it comes to like, okay, I'm gonna build a lineup with bombers. I'm gonna go DJ, Brooks, Finau, Grayson, and Luke List. Then that's probably going to be seen as not a duplicate, but a common theme. If you're going to build a lineup with 6 guys that all fit in one narrative, you might want to leave 300 or 400 on the table at that point. If you're kind of spreading yourself out, like if you take Hideki, as you mentioned, ACP, Hideki, Poulter, and then take Finau, just guys that are good at different things, then you're probably going to see a chance of no duplicates or very, very few, if at all, as I mentioned. So, I know some guys are going to want to watch this later. Plus, I got to get to class in like 6 fucking hours, sadly. So I'm going to need to get to sleep. But best of luck to everybody. ACP, if you got anything last second to add, go for it, my man.
Yeah, no, nothing really to add on. Just good luck. If you guys are in the shop, Mo went live for football. So go ahead and check that out after you're done with this podcast. And yeah, just good luck.
Yes, sir. Yeah, guys, we'll be in the sweatshop. If you haven't joined yet, DFSSweatshop.com. We're in the Facebook group chopping it up all weekend. We'll be talking about the tournament, giving updates if you guys aren't able to watch it, all that good stuff. So if you have any other questions, you can ask me or follow me, or it doesn't matter. You can just ask me at dpope919 so we can chop it up if you have any other questions. I'll probably be going to bed the next 20 minutes, so I won't be able to help you probably for only about 20, 25 minutes. But everyone take care. We did have one quick question. Who's your core 3 or 4 to build on for DK? This would be the last question we answer, so Dreamscapes, you're a lucky guy. Real quick, my core for me, it's a little chalky, but I was looking at Leishman, either JT or DJ. I'm still kind of shaky on that. And then Chappell, and let's see, Leishman. Let me make sure this actually fits, because Chappell, okay, there. DJ, so 7,500 left. Yeah, so then let's see here. I'm gonna say Kyle Stanley, because Kyle Stanley, I mean, that's ACP's guy. I think Kyle Stanley can do well here. The length scares me a little bit, but I wouldn't. Okay, never mind. I wouldn't say Stanley's a core play, because he's not a core. He's not going to be a guy I have everywhere or almost everywhere. But Leishman, Chappell are 2 of my favorite plays, especially because they're in that mid-range price where they allow you to get whoever you want. So I'll give you my core 2 Dreamscapes. It'd be Leishman and Chappell for me. What about you, ACP? Any mid-range plays that allows you to? Because I don't want, if we give them high dollar, I don't know. It's up to you. What do you think, man? Real quick.
Yeah. So if we're just thinking core 3, core 4 here, guys. Definitely Mark Leishman is a lock for me. I think. Let's see here. Sorry, I literally just took this thing down. Yeah, Mark Leishman for sure. Maybe a guy like man, that's tough, because like most of the plays I like are like GPP plays. So if we're talking GPP specifically, Mark Leishman is probably the safest play that I like. I think you can't go wrong with a guy like Matt Kuchar for cash games. Honestly, it's hard. That's kind of a hard question to say for golf, especially because the best guys are the top guys. So if we're talking about core 3, I mean, like JT is a guy you can't go wrong with, really, as far as GPP, and then Spieth is, probably one of the safest guys on the board. So I think core three, though, for me personally, would probably be like Leishman, like maybe like a Kuchar, and like a Hideki for me for like building like a lineup. Maybe
Right,
like
real quick, as you mentioned, all the good guys are like the ones that smash in my key stats. Like I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, so Dreamscapes, if you're new, my top 9 key stat guys are all 9,400 or higher, or 9,200 or higher, except for Kevin Chappell. Like we're talking about Spieth, Jason Day, Justin Thomas, Paul Casey, DJ, all these guys, and obviously you can't fit them in one lineup, so it's really tough this week to give you a core. But I think Leishman will fit in there, and that's why I gave Chappell as well, because he fits my key stats very well. But yeah, guys, and I like the Matsuyama take, by the way, man, because I think he's going to be one of the lowest owned out of that bunch, especially at 10K, like below 10K, you can get some good value. Because if one of these studs duds and Matsuyama does well, you're pretty much beating 25% of the field almost instantly. So I can get behind that. But all right, everyone, y'all keep it easy. We're running overboard. We said we were going to shut off like 15 minutes ago. We're still going. So everyone take it easy, and we'll see you in the sweatshop, dfssweatshop.com. We're chopping up everything, MMA, football, baseball, golf, everything. All right, y'all keep it easy, and see you there.